Recording has started. Hey, my name is Agrode. You are listening to MSP Waves Radio. I am the host of a show called the Minnow Town Hall. And I have with me a very special guest. This is David Pakman. David has recently joined the Steem community. And it's great for the Steem community because not only did he join it personally, but he's also bringing an audience of some 400,000 YouTube subscribers with him. In the last video that I looked at recently, there were something like 200,000 people that watched that video. So he's quite a personality out there in YouTube land, and now he's joining us on the Steem platform. And it is a pleasure and an honor to have you here. I'm looking forward to this conversation. So let me just start by saying thank you, David, for coming and joining the show. And you can call me, my name is Agrode. Kind of rhymes with road or ag road. I don't know. You'll figure it out, but it's Agrode. How are you, sir?
Good. Thanks so much for having me. Great to be here.
Well, so how did you even find Steem? What made, I know that you were looking around some, but what was your criteria to go join this place? What made you think that this would be a good opportunity for you? And not only for you, but when you're leading a community like you are, you're going to bring a lot of people to this. What makes you think that it's good for you and the David Pakman show audience? Where's the fit?
Yeah, a couple different things. I mean, if people don't know, since the beginning of April, some political YouTubers, news and politics YouTubers, have just been getting crushed when it comes to revenue because of something known as YouTube adpocalypse. And without getting into the details of that, because it's not really relevant to our conversation here, a lot of YouTubers like me have been looking for new communities that we might be able to expand to. And since this happened, I've been getting 5 to 10 emails a week, people saying, start putting your content here, start putting your content there. And most of those recommendations had some issue. Either the issue was there was no existing user base, so I'd basically be putting my content somewhere where nobody would see it, or the problems that YouTube had also existed on some of the other platforms. So Steem, it seemed to me to be sort of like the perfect combination of it has an existing user base that's already there. There's actually an audience there, number one. And number two, it circumvents some of the YouTube problems, including that if you do content that is in any way provocative or maybe not 100% what they call advertiser safe, you essentially make no money. And it doesn't have anything to do with how much interest your audience has. It has only to do with whether YouTube's ad algorithm decides you can't make money off of this video. So with Steem It, with the way that you're really basically, it's more of a meritocracy in that sense, where it's not so much whether you use the wrong words in your content or discuss serious and adult issues. It's, does the content resonate with the community that determines the revenue, how much money that makes. And that's just fantastic to me. I mean, I can't think of anything more democratic.
Well, congratulations on becoming quite fluent in the language. You sound actually quite competent in a pretty short amount of time. And, I do these things over... I founded this group that you're in. It's called the Peace, Abundance, and Liberty Network. And I created a group called the Minnow Support Project. And there's something like 5,100 members that are active in here. They're mostly minnows that are part of this. And a lot of the minnows, it takes them literally months to get to be able to be as articulate as you've just been. And I think you've been here, 2 weeks, 2.5, something like that?
It's been between 3 and 4 weeks, I think.
All right. Well, I apologize that my timing's off, but it's still, you're under a month. And
yeah.
Figuring out the cryptocurrency space and figuring out blogging and figuring out how this thing works and being able to talk about it, that's not easy. So honestly, I just want to congratulate you on not just coming here, but coming here and starting to figure out what it works, how it works, and understanding the tie between the value that you bring and the value that your post rewards are. And I think that's pretty important. So kudos.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and I think there's a couple different things going on. One is that I was not totally novice to the crypto space, so I think that having just the tiniest bit of a foundation there absolutely helped in terms of understanding the sort of currency background that's in place. But also, just spending time and actually taking time every single day to take time and see what is being posted, how do the different features work, how can the content that I create more directly relate to or appeal to the Steemit community. I mean, I'm certainly taking it seriously and trying to put content that will be relevant to the Steemit audience out.
So why okay, so why did you get into crypto in general? I mean, if you're doing well on YouTube, I understand the like trying to find a censorship and payment gateway, and Steam actually
Mm-hmm.
makes a lot of sense for that. But if you were already sort of in the crypto space, why? How did you find crypto in general? What made you think like, um, you're doing well in the sort of mainstream world. You have 400,000 subscribers. You talk about politics a lot. You seem like like you're on that spectrum of political pundits, and you're kind of in this system. And yet at the same time, you're sort of migrating away from that system towards a cryptocurrency space. What makes you do that? Why? What was the appeal of crypto? Is it an investment thing? Is it a value thing? Is it like what drew you to crypto then if you were already sort of interested in this?
Well, it's really an all of the above, and this is not zero sum, right? So I don't have to stop doing the other things I'm doing in order to get into this space. It's a space I've been interested in for a while. I mean, I think I went to one of the original Bitcoin presentations. It must have been like 6 or 7 years ago when a guy named I think Gavin Andreessen did a presentation at an event where I also spoke in Amherst, Massachusetts years ago. And I've sort of been following at least Bitcoin, if not the broader crypto space, for some years. And, over the last year, it's gotten significantly more exciting and interesting. So that space has always been interesting to me. And also the kind of political implications of crypto are interesting as well. The idea of currencies that are not tied necessarily anyway to any particular country. I have a very, very novice understanding of blockchain, but it's also very interesting in terms of its other applications outside of just currency and a store of value. So I've been kind of dabbling in that space for some time.
So where do you want it to go? Like, do you have what is your vision for what you're trying to do with the Steam platform? Where do you see it going? Are all of your YouTube videos going to come here? Are you going to migrate that whole thing? Is it like having your cake and eating it too? You'll be on both platforms. Like, how do you envision this thing moving, and sort of what's your besides just not getting your ad revenue destroyed, what other sort
Right.
of like motivating forces, or what kind of vision do you have? Are you still just in the learning phase of this, but you've been active for a bit? Like, where are you heading? What do you want this thing to look like?
Well, number one, I mean, being a relatively new user, I wouldn't even pretend to yet know all of the different ways in which I could work with the Steemit platform. So what I'm going to tell you is just my very early impressions, and those are that my sort of initial idea was start to cross post some of my YouTube content to Steemit and see what kind of a reaction it gets if there's an interest in it. But eventually, the truth is that when I do crypto related content for my YouTube channel, it doesn't do that well because that's not the key audience. That's really a political audience, whether they're, liberal, conservative, or in the middle, they're expecting political content. So the crypto stuff doesn't do that well. So there's a real possibility of creating exclusive crypto space related content to be released directly to Steemit rather than first to YouTube and then to Steemit. So I see it as an opportunity to create content that is of interest to me, but maybe not to the majority of my existing YouTube audience.
So, so you're not the only YouTuber around, and you're not the only YouTuber around with something like 400,000 subscribers. There are some other big people that are out there. based off of your experience so far, do you think that they should migrate here too? Do you think that the platform is ready for that? Do you feel like it's receptive enough to what you're doing, or is that your experience now, or has it been something different than that?
My experience has been great so far. I mean, whether other YouTubers should or shouldn't migrate to any particular platform is really their call. They'd have to figure out based on the content they're producing and sort of their comfort level and understanding of a platform like Steemit, whether they think it's right for them. I mean, I really don't tell other YouTubers what to do. We talk. I talk to some other YouTubers, but really everybody's kind of doing their own thing and figuring out what the best path forward is. Some use Patreon, some don't. Some have, they split their content onto multiple channels. Others concentrate on one. What I can say is that, I've been on the platform under 4 weeks. And so far, my feelings about it are very positive. I don't know how other people's first months on Steemit go or have gone, but without any real reference for comparison, I think that if the idea is to just have kind of sort of steady audience growth on Steemit, the first month has been very positive.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, we every now and then we get these some pretty large channels to go hop onto the Steam platform, and they're saying the same things you are, that I have this content and it doesn't meet advertising standards, and it feels like a form of censorship, that they're literally sometimes they're feeling targeted. It's not just like that it's not advertiser friendly, but it doesn't meet a narrative that YouTube wants to portray. So they're getting their revenue cut, which is sort of like a backdoor to censorship, because people can't make a living doing that anymore. And so they found their way to Steam. So I've seen a couple YouTubers come over here, and they start, they certainly start profitably and they get a nice reception. So I'm glad to see you were included in that. I'm glad to see you bring an audience here. And so if you're, so I, okay, so that's a great experience. I'm glad that it's gone well. One of my thoughts would be, how can you make it so that your political audience might see that there's value in the cryptocurrency space, so that maybe we can take, my goal as a witness is to go grow this platform.
Yeah.
That is one of my chief things. And one of the reasons why I think that this community supports YouTubers with a large subscriber base is because we want to help bring some of those audience members into the Steam platform. So what do you think that we could do as a platform, or what do you think that you could do as a show host that might help bridge the gap, so that Grandma Facebook, or I don't know, Timmy the Twitter fan, what can we do to make it appeal to them, especially in your audience, for a political audience? How do we make the connection between things that are political and how we can have nice discussions about them that are rewarding on the Steam blockchain?
Yeah. So two thoughts on that. I mean, number one, although my audience may not be in the crypto space or on Steemit or understand blockchain, they really understand the connection between independent media and funding around media. So number one, even if they don't yet understand the specifics or know about the specifics of crypto or blockchain or Steemit, they get why it's important for programs that are not corporate media to have steady sources of funding. So they're a receptive audience, if not yet a knowledgeable one, about the specifics of Steemit. My plan, and I'm going to start doing this tomorrow more specifically, is I'm going to speak very directly to my audience. And we have a story already set up for tomorrow's broadcast program, which will go out on 200 radio and TV stations tomorrow, in addition to just on YouTube. I'm going to be very upfront with the audience that, hey, listen, that for the last, I guess it's been 7 months, we've been dealing with this demonetization issue. I've told you that when I have any action items for you to help us recover that lost revenue, I'm going to come to you with them. I've been on Steemit for almost 4 weeks, and I want you to join me there and to participate in the community. And we're going to do screenshots from the Steemit website, really talking people through, here's how it works. Here is how you can sign up, and really try to very specifically tell people, hey, listen, if we can get just a couple percent of our 400,000 YouTube audience to come over to Steemit and support our work as well as other people's, that could be a game changer for us. And I can be really direct about that because now I have these 4 weeks of experience and data to share with them. So I'm going to start directly kind of telling my audience like, hey, this is a platform, that I've been getting a lot of offers to go to new platforms. I've looked at a lot of them and a lot of them have not been the right fit. Here's something I think is a great fit, and I'm asking you to join me there.
So, are you familiar already with the terms minnow, dolphin, and whale? Has that reached your ears and you get that now?
I'm sorry, you cut out. I heard you say minnow, and what were the
Dolphin and whale. Are you familiar with those terms already?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they describe different degrees of familiarity and reputation on Steemit.
Yeah, one of the most standard technical definitions is just how much steam power do you own. And if you
Right.
are under 5,000 steam power, that's a minnow. If you have up to 50,000, that makes you a dolphin. And if you have 50,000 or more, that makes you a whale. And so right now in this Discord, you are in the Peace, Abundance, and Liberty Discord. And within this is housed the Minnow Support Project. So one of the things that I figured out in I've been here over a year, it's probably 14 to 16 months at this point, is that the degree of success that you have just being a good writer or just being a good author, it's sort of the baseline. Just being a good content creator, that's the baseline for success. But if you really want to excel, a lot of it has to go do with building a community, building a network, and helping other people. So if I could go put into a plea as you continue promoting this the Steem ecosystem, I would also encourage you to go direct some of your users that would be new to the crypto space, that would have a ton of questions and things like that, into the Minnow Support Project and this Discord very particularly, because we have, there's probably a dozen people that are full-time moderators in here. There's another 6 or 7 elected witnesses that sit around and we help answer questions. We help kind of understand the basics of this platform to go help people be successful. And this place is also like a giant town hall just in and of itself, where folks can meet one another, converse, find common interest, find some people that they like, they can follow, upvote, re-steam, and it builds this community around here. And this particular community is very much geared towards, hey, this is my second day on the Steem blockchain and I don't know what's going on. Can somebody help me do this? I spent 8 hours on a post and I didn't get any rewards. What's going on here? How do I be successful and things like that? I mean, literally before you were here, I spent an hour on an orientation trying to go teach people about what the Steem platform does, how you can find success here, some of the life cycle activities that different people should have. So my plea to you is, hey, while you're promoting Steem as a platform, it wouldn't hurt you, or I'd ask you to go please put in some links to this community. We are actually Steem official. Like if you look at the welcome page, there's a link down there that says new user support group, and it goes directly to us. So I would ask you to point that out to folks, maybe not in tomorrow's broadcast, but as you keep going through this, I think we could help your audience find success on this platform and cut down the time it takes to really learn this place and be successful here.
Awesome. Point taken.
Okay. So what do you have questions about this platform? Do you have questions that you'd like to ask me as a witness? My main thing is I'd like to help you be successful. You seem like an upstanding person. I like that you're teaching people about this place. I want to help you. So I can help you by re-steaming posts, which I've already done. I can help you by introducing you to the audience that's here and the group that's here. And hopefully you spend some time making friends with the folks that are in this place. But if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them, or see what other ways, like what kind of support do you need to be successful? What can we do to help you?
Yeah, well, I'm only just learning even what it is that I don't know. You know what I mean? So I think that probably in the next month or several weeks on the platform, as I get more familiar with it, I'll actually learn more about what I need to learn. So, I mean, right now, I think just any more general ideas about everything from managing post schedules, how I should be managing Steam dollars and Steam power. I mean, really, I'm just kind of like a sponge at this point, willing to just hear advice from people who are more familiar and experienced with the platform.
So, do you have other cryptocurrency investments? Is Steem your only one right now, or do you own some Bitcoin? Do you own some of these other things?
Yeah, I own some Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, Neo, and Gas.
All right. I mean, you got a ton of different things there. Um, so that gives me a little bit of the sense of the familiarity that you might have in the space. Do you understand? Do you understand how SBD, Steam Power, and Steam work? Do you know that like one is meant to be a stable currency, one is basically a representation of your ownership in this platform, and one is basically a fungible, transmittable ownership stake in the platform?
Yep, that part I'm up to speed on for sure.
Okay. So I guess one of the main thoughts I've been doing recently, um, if the markets have been doing some weird things. The SBD is really meant to be pegged at roughly $1, and if it goes below $1, then the witnesses will actually increase the interest rate on it to make it more appealing to investors to hold on to it to make sure that it doesn't dip below $1. But there's really no support that will provide if it goes over $1. And the tool itself is designed to be a $1 asset. And it's been kind of a funky last week because we've seen it go as high as $3.80. It's currently trading at 180. This is not standard. So one of the thoughts I'd have is if you happen to have some steam-backed dollars, now might be a great time to sell them because it is my running theory that the peg is meant to stay at $1, and this thing will eventually stop getting pumped and will just go back to its natural state and rest at $1. So I don't.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, I have done that where I have sold some of the Steam dollars for Steam anywhere from I think 1.6 to 1.9 maybe I caught it over the last week or so. I mean, is that so? It seems that there's a number of people that are thinking of that.
Now, are you doing that through a trading thing, or are you doing that through the internal currency market?
No, I'm doing it through block trades.
Okay, so I'd like to tell you that there's an even easier way to go do that. So on a Steam page, if you so on that very top row, you have Steam It, you have trending, you have new, you have hot, you have promoted, you have a search. There's the neon green post button, then your icon, and then there's the three lines that are in the very top right there. And
Right.
if you click on those three lines, about just three or four down is a thing called currency market. And we
Hmm.
actually have an internal market that will allow you to go back and forth between Steam backed dollars and Steam without using any other intermediary. And so when you go through block trades, like, and you're converting to a different currency and then you're coming back, block trades is going to take a small percent. And when you go in and out of currencies, you're taking on some additional risk. But this thing is basically instant, and this is a way that you can go purchase Steam. You can see what the prices are. It's usually pretty reflective of what the actual market is.
Hmm.
And so the next time you're feeling like, hey, I have some overpriced SBD, or you're feeling like, wow, Steam just got pumped pretty well. I don't think it's going to stay here in the short term, so I'd like to cash out some of my risk without it actually leaving the platform. That would be one of the times that I would bring it back to Steam backed dollars. But I typically do it through this internal market. Unless I have like thousands that I want to move, if I'm on the order of like a couple hundred, it's usually faster, easier, and less expensive to go use the internal marketplace.
Got it. Good to know.
So, I mean, that's a small thing I can help with.
Yeah,
Hopefully that
absolutely.
saves you a little money, and especially as you grow your audience. And I mean, honestly, if you're making posts about bringing people here and you're sharing that with a large group, when you do that, here's my direct request. When you do that, when you make that post, you said you're going to bring it out tomorrow. What I'd like you to do is come into the Peace, Abundance, and Liberty chat room, click on my name, send me the URL for what you've done, and that will alert me directly. Hey, I need to go re-steam David Pakman's thing here because this is awesome, and I can go get 6,900 eyes on this thing.
Awesome. Absolutely. Thank you so much. I will absolutely do that.
But I mean, that's what this place is designed for, right? Like these interactions, you can put stuff on the block and maybe people will notice. It's hard to curate. It's hard to read lots of posts. And people that don't know you, like I've been a part of a lot of business groups. And one of my favorite phrases is people do business with people that they know. So you and I at least have some sense of who one another are right now. And so my thought would be, hey, I like this David guy. I want to support him. And he's supporting this platform, which makes me want to even support him more. So the least I can do is just re-steam you. But, I run an organization of 5,100 people. I'm a witness. I have a full-time job, a wife, 2 kids, a house, and that whole deal. So sometimes it's hard for me to go focus my brain on the curation side of these things. So one of the ways that I help people is just say, hey, direct message me that post within PalNet or within Discord, and I can go re-steam it. And that to me is one of the central functions of building this community, is making those relationships so that people will say, hey, David sounds cool. I met him. I heard him on the radio. So they're going to say, okay, I think I should upvote him. I think I should re-steam him. It's a hot topic, but maybe somebody will drop a bidbot on some of your posts to go increase the value on them as a way to say, hey, you're doing a good thing for this platform. Here's a way that we can reward you and thank you for that service.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, this is exactly the type of stuff that is useful for me to know and learn for sure. Thank you.
And hopefully you can take this to your audience. I mean, I know that's somewhat selfish for me to say because I like running this place and it's fun for me. And it's been rewarding because having built this, it turned me into a top witness. And now this platform supports me financially. But I also think that this place is literally the number one thing that brand new users need more than anything else is a community. Because all those questions that they have of what does this button do? How do I do this? How do I find this? Like, it's really hard to get all that information just through commenting on a bunch of posts. But if you can just kind of come in here and hang out in this group chat and just talk to one another, I think you'll get all of your questions answered.
I would assume I would. Yeah, it seems that there is a long list of people who know exponentially more about the platform than I know. That's for sure.
And a fair amount of them are just here and want to support and help people. What else?
I'm curious, like in terms of content, I mean, is there, the great thing is because I have this program, I have access to a studio and a production team and technical resources. Is there a particular type of actual audio-visual content that would be of particular interest or use to the Steem It community?
I think all original content works and is productive. I mean, I think we're going to tokenize and revolutionize how performances are paid for, how artistic work is paid for, and especially as we bring new audience members here and the price of Steem rises as a result, we're going to have more and more power to influence this market. So I think I'd say no matter what you do, whether it's political, apolitical, about crypto, even about art and creative things, to some extent, I don't think it matters as long as you are putting time and effort and resources into making high quality content. I think that will appeal and people will want to support it. Got it.
Makes sense. Yeah. Understandable.
Like we don't have tons of production level content here. We have a lot of passionate authors, writers. I mean, we have like basically a Steem House publishing group that's coming. They're called the Writers Block. So we have groups that are dedicated to making good content that's in the Steem ecosystem. But we don't have some people have professional studios built in their house. But it's still not on that like corporate backed level where people have $50,000 plus levels of equipment that they can just kind of stroll into and make new things out of. So anything that you put together that's good content, I think it should be well received here.
Awesome. And to be clear, nothing corporate on my end. I mean, we're a totally independent, three-person operation. So we are, if anything, we're sort of trying to make a dent into the overwhelming sort of market control of corporate news media.
So where do you think that comes from? Why is there so much corporate control over that?
Well, it's just a question of finances, right? I mean, there are now, fortunately, with the internet, the barriers to entry into the news commentary world have been lowered. But big picture, the amount of distribution that a channel like CNN has through establishment internet service providers and cable providers is just orders of magnitude bigger than what I'm doing. So we've been basically going one station at a time, one YouTube subscriber at a time, and building this network of 200 non-commercial radio and TV stations for 10 years at this point. And same thing as far as YouTube goes, right? I mean, our first month on YouTube, we had 700 views, and now we're gaining anywhere from 5 to 15,000 subscribers on YouTube per month. So the scale has changed drastically, but we're still that same, independent show where we have our small studio and are sort of doing our thing day to day. So it's really, I mean, it's a David and Goliath thing, really. Just the scale is just so drastically different.
So where's the passion come from? Like, what is the so when I talk to new users, I'll often say, look, if you want to go find where your success is going to be here, the first thing I think you ought to do is create a problem statement and figure out something that's wrong in the world that is really, really bugging you, and then create sort of a vision statement of what the world would look like and how it would be better if that thing was no longer there or you could make it some other way. And then build a mission statement to be very clear about what your kind of common purpose is, and then make a plan. So I normally tell people, here are the 4 docs that you need. And if you create these 4 docs, it will make all of your decisions infinitely easier. So I guess I'd start with, like, as you are putting together all of this content, what is the problem that you're seeing in the world that you want to solve, that you think that you can solve through news commentary and sort of the 10-year uphill independent media battle that you have been fighting?
Yeah, well, I mean, the answer there is it's just politics, right? I mean, the program is a reflection of my politics, and it's all about identifying a very long list of problems in the world and giving what my view is of what the solutions would be. Now, not everybody's going to agree with that, in the same way that not everybody who watches my YouTube channel or listens to my podcast agrees with my proposed solutions. There would be no reason to think that everybody on Steem it would. But I think that where I can find common ground with people of most political stripes is the idea that we really should be evaluating ideas on their merits rather than on how many corporate advertising dollars are behind them. And I think that that's sort of like the common thread between what I'm doing on other platforms and the Steem it platform, to take it sort of back to one of the first things we talked about.
So how many platforms are you building content on right now? You have Steam, you have YouTube.
Well,
Are there others?
there's really one oh I'm sorry. The connection seemed to cut out there. Are there other
Are there
platforms
other?
like
Yeah.
Steam?
No. Are there other? What places are you like? I'm interested in the David Pacman show. I want to go find your content. How many different places as a content consumer of yours am I going to look? Do I need to go to just Steam and YouTube, or do you have media in other places as well?
Yeah, so the David Pacman show, which is 5 days a week, that 1 hour program is on 200 radio and TV stations. It's on DirecTV and Dish Network at 10 p.m. Eastern time on weekdays, on a channel called Free Speech TV. There's a podcast, which is on everything from iTunes to, we just launched on Spotify last week, and we've got the YouTube channel. So there's no shortage of platforms where the content can be found. That's for sure.
Will you also get to add MSP Waves to that list?
Absolutely. That's the newest one. That's as of 35 minutes.
Nice. We're in some big media names that we're up against now. So
Exactly.
but we're not the first people to do radio, but we are the first people to go do Steam radio. So I feel like You don't always have to be the big first, but as this platform grows, I think that our reach, I've already been watching how our reach continues to grow week after week. Um, we're not at the 200,000 views just yet, but I think that we're going to end up getting there because as this platform grows, like, do you know what hard forks are? Have you been exposed to that yet? Do you know
Yes,
that
I have.
term?
I have, yeah.
So one of the next hard forks is going to be velocity, and velocity is really about smoothing out that new user acquisition experience. That making brand new accounts should be a lot faster and smoother going forward. And Hard Fork 21 ought to be this communities and smart media tokens that are coming out. And basically, any group, any business, any community can go create their own token, sort of like you could on Ethereum. Um, and I think that Steam is really going to have a unique role to play in not only tokenizing the internet, but also forming community around it. And it's going to be really easy to join us. I think in the next 3 to 6 months here, I think that we are going to experience pretty massive growth because I think we'll finally be aligned for that. And as that happens, I think that MSP Waves in particular is well situated to ride that growth wave.
That's a great thing to hope for, and I hope you're absolutely right for sure.
I mean, it would benefit you too, right? Like if my predictions come true here, that as you are building your audience here, and as you are being able to get exposed to more people and earn more Steam and have more Steam dollars and have more influence within the crypto space, I think we're basically all riding the way that Bitcoin's sort of historic growth over the past, I don't know, year and a half or so, watching that thing kind of moon. All of our cryptos are going to keep experiencing that boon. When I joined the crypto movement, I think our market cap was something like 50 billion, and we've already been able at times to go surpass 250 billion. So I feel
Yeah.
like money is just going to keep pouring into this space, and as that happens, I think Steam is going to be well situated to grow along with it.
Certainly would seem that way for sure. Yeah, and I'm glad. I it's always hard to know how early one is in something until it's later on. You know what I mean? So it's hard for me to really even have a sense of with really with it goes beyond Steam, but with a lot of these cryptocurrencies, exactly where we are. Like, what will it be like in 5 or 10 years? But you have to believe that we're still in the pretty early stages with a lot of these.
Yeah, I mean, I think we are, we still have beta up on the site. And I think after this next hard fork, I'm hoping that beta tag will go away. But I think you are just shy of where the mass adoption of this thing starts taking place.
Mm.
In part because we're not quite ready for that growth because we had some back end scaling things that we had to work out, and so the site performance is a lot faster because of some technical changes that they made. And now with the next sort of hard fork that's coming, I think it's going to smooth out like we want to bring millions of people here a la Reddit. And that the current way that we do that would be way too resource intensive to do that. So I think they're building a pretty smart plan to make it a much easier pathway to bring people on board, and we should be ready for growth. And hopefully, you're going to see that in your audience here, and hopefully, you'll see that in your post rewards. And as you build a community, not only in Palnet but on the Steam blockchain, and I think it's going to benefit all of us. We are all early adopters even now, and I think there's a lot of like pretty massive growth potential for us to experience still.
Yeah, there's so many areas in life where people say a rising tide lifts all boats, and it really doesn't. But it actually seems like this is a community where you could accurately say that.
So what? So you have so coming up, you have your sort of announcement post of we think that you guys should join the Steam system. What do you want to talk some about politics? I'm a little weary to go there because I don't know um, how we don't often talk about politics too much in here. So I don't know how this will go. Is that something you'd like to do? Where Where would you like this interview to go next?
Well, I'm glad to let you guide the interview, but certainly I'm glad to talk politics. I have absolutely no idea what the political views of your audience is, or more broadly on Steam It. I know there's people that agree and disagree with my views, but if there's any particular political issue you want to talk about, I'm glad to.
Um, I don't know. Maybe one. Let's go ask. I'm going to ask the audience. I haven't been. I hopefully they'll forgive me. I can't always pay too much attention directly to what is scrolling on the screen while I'm trying to think of what to say. But if there's a couple of questions that people would like to go pose to David Pakman, either political, about his crypto experience, about trying to grow his business as an independent media thing, I'm open to these things. So does anybody from the audience want to pose questions here? And there's a 7-second lag here, so we got to give them just a moment to respond.
Gotcha.
To not sell Steam It as a place to make money. So one comment is EM3 is saying, please don't just sell Steam It as a place to make money. We have a lot of.
Yeah, and to be clear, that's not my pitch tomorrow. Is not going to be about Steam It as a place to make money. It's going to be a place where my content can exist censorship free, and that can be supported based on sort of the quality of it as perceived by the audience. But that I completely agree with that. That's not going to be my pitch.
Let's see. So EM3 is still going with it's a place to have community education. Man, I gotta. I think this might be a little trolling, but here we go. Do you think the ruling elite are mostly alien reptiles from another dimension? Where do you stand on the alien reptile controversy?
I fall on the absolutely yes side, of course.
Okay, that's awesome. I don't. I can't. I'm not gonna go there. I'm gonna leave this alone. Don't ignore you. All right, Lamavine is asking, how do you feel about social justice and the term social justice warriors? I will go put that up there. Where do you stand on the social justice, or the perception of social justice, or the need for it?
Yep. Well, listen, I mean, there's no question that the term social justice warrior has become sort of a parody of itself. It's an ad hominem against particular individuals with particular views. And much like the term regressive left, it has sort of lost any real practical value. So I think that a better thing to do, it's sort of like when people say, are you a social justice warrior or aren't you? Are you a Zionist or aren't you? Are you a regressive leftist or aren't you? Really, a better question is, what's your view? What's your position on a particular issue, right? Because the labels have become so toxic that even social justice warrior as an attack has become an insult of almost no meaning, and social justice warrior as a description of oneself has also become completely toxic because it immediately triggers responses of these sort of caricaturized individuals. So I think that a better question would be, what is my position on a particular issue that you believe social justice warriors are right or wrong on? And we could maybe get away from the sort of toxic labels that are going on.
Do you feel like there's a controlled narrative in the news media currently? Are you providing commentary because you feel like it's not getting heard otherwise, or do you feel like you have a particular view and it's nuanced and other people need to hear that sort of nuance, or do you feel like it's just? I often feel like there's a contrived debate between. We have to talk about these things as either Republican or Democrat or right or left or conservative or liberal. And those two things don't tend to take much into account individual liberty and sort of having your own viewpoints and sharing your own civil liberties and your own freedoms. They're usually either, do you want sort of a right government or a left government? So I think that there's a lot of framing there. Where are you coming from with why are you sharing these political views? What's the motive for that? And particularly in the context of, do you feel like the news media won't report on a standpoint like yours, and so you have to go independent? Where's the line there?
Yeah, so there's a couple different things, and your question relates to so many interesting topics that we just couldn't possibly to here. But what you're sort of referring to is the different types of structural bias that exist in corporate news media. So there's a couple different things going on. Number one, there is what could be called a sort of Overton window of media coverage. Overton window is this idea that if you imagine like the full spectrum of ideas that could be discussed, there's some narrower spectrum, which is the Overton window of what's considered the appropriate spectrum of discussion, either in the US Senate, for example. Like the US Senate is not going to consider all ideas of the political spectrum. They operate within a much narrower span from left to right or authoritarian to libertarian, whatever you would want to call it. Same thing applies to news media, right? So Occupy Wall Street is a good example. There were basically two narratives on Occupy Wall Street that you could talk about. One was, are the protesters behaving and good people, or are they bad hippie communists who are defecating on police cars, right? That was one debate that corporate media would have about Occupy Wall Street. The other one was, is income inequality a problem or is it not a problem? And you could sort of debate like, oh yeah, income inequality is a problem, it's not a problem. There was a much broader debate that could be had, which is, what are the failings and successes of our economic system of capitalism in the United States? Now, the problem was, as soon as I say that, people immediately say, oh my God, David Pakman is clearly a socialist, communist, Marxist, whatever. And I'm not actually. I'm actually for well-regulated capitalism, the style that you see in the sort of Scandinavian countries. But there was a conversation there, which was, hey, Occupy Wall Street should be making us think about, in what ways has our economic system been good for us, and in what ways has it failed us? But that was outside of the acceptable spectrum of debate on corporate media. So that would be an example of a debate or a discussion that I can have that is just not being had on corporate media. Micro example, right? But it goes to exactly what it is you're pointing to.
So how do you there's not a lot of media that I watch outside of Steem anymore. How do you have that debate? I mean, you're using the word debate. Are you bringing people onto the show that have differing viewpoints and sort of having polite discourse about that? You don't seem the type to be like shouting in somebody's face, a la like a Bill O'Reilly or somebody. How are you getting a variety of views on your show? Does that happen, or are you just sort of clarifying that the arguments might be bigger than what are currently presented?
Yeah. So, I mean, listen, I don't yell and scream, but I've interviewed everyone from white nationalist Richard Spencer to the people from the God Hates Fags Westboro Baptist Church and everything in between. So there's no shortage of dissenting opinions on my program. But yet, no, I don't yell and scream at them. My theme is more give them enough rope with some carefully worded questions to let them hang themselves and expose themselves to the audience. What my use of the term debate can be a debate of ideas internally where we are talking about ideas that just aren't being discussed in corporate media, or it can be a literal debate with people that I disagree with. So both, all of those fall under what we do on my program.
So you were in the Peace, Abundance, and Liberty Network. A lot of what we do is try to teach people how to be peaceful. You are in a environment that really doesn't promote that at all. The political spectrum tend to like end up in shouting matches, and you have people that have drastically different perspectives than you. How do you as a person manage to sort of hold respect for a person, or keep a conversation from escalating into unhealthy attacks with one another while having a conversation with somebody whose opinion on certain areas you might frankly despise? How do you,
Yeah, part of it is just become you do become sort of desensitized, right? So part of it is I hear outrageously offensive things said by guests with such frequency that I no longer have like that visceral reaction of wanting to yell and scream. So that's number one. Part of it is just, it goes with experience. Number two, though, is that I know that I'm going to be much more effective in exposing the weaknesses of someone's ideas, not if I speak louder than them or interrupt them, but rather by being well researched on the weaknesses of their arguments, if you can call them that. You can't always call them arguments. Sometimes you call them screeds or diatribes. And being able to be prepared to expose the holes in those arguments by being as knowledgeable or more than they are. So it's just really an approach thing, right? And I get it. Bill O'Reilly, until he was fired and forced to resign in disgrace for who knows at this point how many sexual assault incidents he was involved in, he had an approach of being really appealing to some people by yelling and shouting down. That's not my strategy, but I would encourage your audience to check out the interviews I've done with some of these people to see what my approach is, and maybe it will resonate with some of them.
Yeah, I would certainly direct people. Minnow, if you can put some of the links to his YouTube channel, if you can put links to his Steam page, and those are probably the two best spots in here to go to for right now. And David, if you have any sort of examples that you might point somebody to of like, here's this person that seems pretty angry, and here's how we had a healthy conversation despite differences of opinion and even maybe not
well,
a healthy.
Listen, healthy may be a bit of an overstatement, but I think with certainty I can tell you they don't degrade into shouting matches, right? That's what's clear. But there's certainly no agreement, and in many cases, I don't respect these people nor their ideas, but I do think it's important to expose them.
So, but I'm going to play devil's advocate. Sorry, lexiconical, if I'm taking your role here, but if even just by bringing them online and into your show and exposing them to a very large audience, don't you run the risk of people hearing that and sort of becoming attached or buying into these ideals that you might not support?
Yep, I've been dealing with this for that question for basically 10 years, and I reject the idea. In order to believe that, so basically, what's the argument you're posing? You're saying, is it possible that by virtue of me interviewing someone I disagree with, that it might turn more people onto their horrible ideas than the number of people that might become activists against those ideas by virtue of learning that these ideas are out there? And
like
I think
a really good example of that would be DARE. Right, the DARE program was actually a giant disaster where it encouraged more kids to go do drugs than it actually got them to stop doing them. So there's a way that you can expose people in a bad way.
Right, and I agree that the DARE program was a disaster. I reject what I do. I think that it's a very interesting conversation to have in theory, but I think if anyone sees the level of preparation that I bring into these interviews, there is no reasonable way anyone that the result of any of these interviews would be a net increase in support for the ideas brought to the table by the guest.
Okay. Do you often bring guests on that are like-minded too? Do you have sort of that constructive dialogue, not just breaking down arguments and perspectives that you don't necessarily like? Are you also bringing on people that you think share some similar views and might contribute to a positive vision in the same way that you could see it going?
Yes, and it's actually mostly that. I mean, those interviews, the truth is that I try to bring on people who are experts in their respective fields. That includes everything from economists to scientists to authors to whatever. So the majority of the interviews are actually with experts that I and my audience are learning from. And it's the minority of the interviews, although they are interesting and they get a lot disproportionately more attention, that are these more adversarial interviews where we're trying to break down bad ideas.
So what are sort of like the key tenets? Like, this place is named after the three values that I have and sort of live by and spend my time with, of peace, abundance, and liberty. What would be the message, or what is the central message of the it's not a campaign, but of all the work that you're doing, what's the central message that you're trying to bring people towards?
I've never really thought of a sort of tagline that would be kind of equivalent to what you have here, peace, abundance, liberty. So I really have to think about that. I mean, I think that the values of my politics come through to anybody who, spends any amount of time watching or listening to my content, but it's not one thing that I could sort of sum up in just a few words like that. I'd have to put some thought into that.
All right. Well, I mean, I think you've won over some people in this crowd, just as a person. I don't know. We haven't discussed politics too much, so I don't know if they'll agree with your political beliefs. But I do think that people can respond to you and like you as a person. But I do think that having some kind of some clarity to because right now, this you're in a room full of people that don't have a 10-year history with you, so we don't quite know who you are. We don't quite know what you're bringing, what your history has been, what your perspective has been. Um, so the more that you are able to sort of like uh, again, I think a lot in terms of vision. If you can share the vision of where you think the world should be, if you could tell us the key central problems that you're trying to solve, it makes it easier to not just like you as a person, but also say, here's the things that I really want to stand with David on.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the some of the most important political we've got to change money in politics. That's absolutely got to change. I think we need instant runoff voting to really break the two-party duopoly. I think that it would be an absolute moral imperative to move when it comes to healthcare in the direction of Scandinavian countries, for example. I think that the degree to which we have wealth and income inequality in the country, aside from whether you think it's moral or immoral, is bad for the economy. And that's really my background, actually, economics. There's a very long list, right? I mean, there's no shortage of individual political issues that we could discuss, but I think big picture, it's not going to be a surprise to people familiar with my work that I consider myself a progressive. I'm on the left of what is considered the American political spectrum.
Um, okay, so I feel like we've had a pretty good discussion here for about 55 minutes. I'd like to. This is. I do want to give time to other audience members to kind of come onto this show, respond with questions, and just if people want to promote things or share things, I want to give an opportunity for that. So, David, I think this is a good time for us to say thank you very much. It is wonderful to have you on the show. I hope that I can bring you back at some other times. You are certainly welcome to keep coming.
That would be a pleasure, and I really appreciate. I'm new to this platform. I'm trying to learn as much as. It's been such a great opportunity to be with you and your today.
Well, awesome. I'm going to create a post. This entire thing has been recorded. I will put it out onto the Steem blockchain, and I will promote you and promote your work, and do the best that I can to be a fan. And please, when the sort of introduce yourself to Steem post hits, meaning like, hey, I want my following to come here, and anything else that is. Anything else that's really on that let's bridge the gap between the audience's life cycle. I don't want you to even think twice. I want you to say, oh, Aggie will go support this. He likes me personally and thinks that I'm good for this platform. So the second that you're doing things that are going to help introduce your audience more to life in crypto and sort of some of the politics that a lot of crypto folks have, I want to support it, and I want to bring more people to this environment. So anytime that you feel like here's one that's a little less political and here's one that's a little bit more towards let's introduce more people to Steem, you can count on at least a 6,900 person re-Steem, but that number keeps creeping up.
Thank you so much. I will take you up on it, and I really appreciate.
Yeah, count me as a fan. All right, so I'm going to pull David Pakman out of the show here. I'm going to go play a song to go give us a little bit of a break here. You are listening to MSP Waves Radio. I am your host, Skanky J. That is my college radio DJ name. I'm also known as Agrode, witness number 11. We were blessed to go have David Pakman on the show. Thank you for coming on. And I'm going to go stop this recording. We're going to get a quick